Maybe the
We
piss
didn't have
tapes
the
are real.
problems
Nah, I
in
don't think
other
I don't think
parts
there's
of the Middle
anything that
East.
would harm him. I don't
We
think
didn't have
like
inflation.
Donald Trump with the exception of like literally bring a baby, okay, on camera and then eating the baby. There's not much that is going to cause people to go, "Oh, that's a bridge too far for me." Donald Trump is holding a live press conference alongside French President Macron now.
Restore peace, and I think we're going to do it. We've had some great conversations, including with Russia. Since my return to the White House, we've made more progress toward that goal in 1 month than occurred in the past 3 years. And I've spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky. And again,
who's a dictator and I hate him.
A lot of good things toward peace are happening, moving it.
Did Carl Dent-Mon trying to reach out to you? Tell him to hit me on Discord.
Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff conducted successful talks in Saudi Arabia with the delegation from Russia, and I'd like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the King and Mohammed. Great people. They're really working hard to get this done. Our focus is on achieving a ceasefire as soon as possible and ultimately a permanent peace. My meeting with President Macron today was another important step forward in that sphere because he's been very much involved right from the beginning in trying to get it over with, and we're going to get it done. I believe that Emmanuel agrees with me on many of the most important issues. Chief among them is this is the right time. It may be the only time. You know, that's a very interesting and horrible situation, and that could evolve into a third world war. We're not going to let that happen. Should have never started, but it did. And what a mess, what a horrible, bloody mess. I'm also pleased that President Macron agrees that the cost and burden of securing the peace must be borne by the nations of Europe, not alone by the United States. And Europe must take that central role in assuring long-term security of Ukraine, which they want to do. And that's not a very big step. A big step is what's going to happen over the next few weeks. The United States has put up far more aid for Ukraine than any other nation. Hundreds of billions of dollars. We've spent more than 300 billion, and Europe has spent about 100. 100 billion, that's a big difference. And at some point, we should equalize. But hopefully we won't have to worry about that. We have other things happening that maybe take that out of the realm of necessity. And while we've given vast amounts of military aid and money in form of grants, much of Europe's contribution has been economic relief structured as loans for which they'll be repaid. Like the Europeans, I believe that taxpayers in the United States also deserve to recoup the colossal amounts of money that we've sent. The previous administration never even thought of that. They didn't think of a lot of things, like why did they let it start in the first place? That is why we must have an agreement with Ukraine on...
Dude, every time he talks about Russia, I can't believe I'm getting... Maybe I'm a little too libbed up, but every time he talks about Russia the way he does and the actions that he takes in regards to Russia, I unironically start thinking he is like... I mean, he's going above and beyond, dude. He's going above and beyond. Like was Trump a KGB asset memes are becoming reality, okay? Unfolding in front of my eyes. So the reason why I say that is because like I understand wanting to engage with Russia in the ceasefire talks. This is something that I advocated Biden do as well. But this is literally above and beyond. Like the UN, the symbolic vote in the UN, the consistent undermining of Zelensky, like he goes far, far above what Trump normally would do in this situation. Like, what the fuck?
For the first administration, first term, we had no wars, we had no problems. We didn't have October 7th with Israel. We didn't have Russia and Ukraine going at it.
Maybe the piss
didn't have
tapes
the
are real.
problems
Nah,
in
I don't think
other
I don't think
parts
there's
of the Middle
anything that
East.
would harm him. I don't
We
think
didn't have
like
inflation.
Donald Trump, with the exception of like literally murdering a baby, okay, on camera and then eating the baby. There's not much that is going to cause people to go, oh, that's a bridge too far for me. I hate this guy now. You know what I mean? Blackmail only works if you have some semblance of shame and normalcy. Look at Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is unblackmailable. He is a drunk rapist. And now he is the defense secretary.
Our country's history. I hope that's right, but I feel it's right. We've done a lot of things in a very
Check
short
your
period of
Discord. I
time.
wrote you to get a call in with Dick Carl Dent. Okay, hold on.
My greatest legacy, however, will be as a peacemaker and a unifier.
Did you try
I
to
wanna
add
bring
me?
peace, not war. I thank President Macron
Come
for
on.
joining us today in this urgent work we're doing. And we have some wonderful people
Tomas
up
is
front
mod.
right here that have
Did you try to
worked
add
so
me?
hard. Steve Witkoff, thank
On
you
Discord?
very much. And Michael Waltz, thank you. Scott, thank you very much.
Whisper to my
JD,
mods
thank
what your username is on
They've
Discord.
really done a job. They worked very hard. It's a real passion to get this war ended. And
What's
I'd
your
like
stance
to,
on Macron? As a
now
Frenchman, I'm curious of what
invite
others think.
Emmanuel to say a few
I think
words,
he
and then
is
we'll take questions.
incredibly bad.
And again,
He
Emmanuel,
is
it's a great honor
unimaginably
to have
bad,
you with us
and
at
he
the
is
White House. Thank you very
he
much.
is almost single-handedly
Thank you,
responsible for the
Mr.
rise of the
President.
nationalist
Thank you,
movement in
Donald.
France by
Ministers,
constantly
ladies and
capitulating to
gentlemen,
right-wing
mesdames et messieurs,
sentiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be saying a few
He's
words
a
in
horrible
French.
racist, and I hate him.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear Donald, for your hospitality and for this visit. As you mentioned, we have had the opportunity to meet over the past few years. Since your first term, we've been able to discuss matters in Paris and also here at the White House, and it has always been a great joy to do that, and I would like to commend you. And thank you, Mr. President, for extending this friendship to France and taking part in the ceremony at Notre Dame that you mentioned before. It was a great honor for the French people to reopen the cathedral to the rest of the world, and your presence was a testament to that friendship. As the President said, this friendship dates back to the Revolutionary War, since the beginning of the United States, and whenever we've needed to, we've been able to come together and be on the right side. We've been able to be united to defend peace and sovereignty, namely in the two world wars that marked the 20th century, from Lafayette to Pershing and to the many Americans who landed on Omaha Beach. And we spoke earlier before, and you mentioned that one of those gentlemen was able to visit you here, one of the veterans. This is part of history which puts us in the world that we are in today. And as the President just said, there are many challenges in this world. And over the past few days, we have one
Can't
main
believe
objective,
Trump
which
already
is the
nutted and
geopolitical
Macron's still
situation.
s***ing. Why only fascists? Why not
President,
exclude communism too? Seems like an
wish
extremely
to
one-sided
thank you
opinion. Let me explain to you one thing
making
really
changes
quickly,
to
okay?
your schedule
I
to
like
meet with us
communism.
so
I
quickly.
don't care. I am not
think we've
afraid
made
of saying
very
that while I wouldn't
substantive
consider
steps
myself to be a
forward
communist,
during our
I don't
discussions, and this
mind
is a major
communism.
step
I don't
in what
mind
we're
attempts at
experiencing
moving
today.
in the direction of communism.
had a video
I don't mind this
conference
at
with all
all.
of the G7
Okay?
leaders,
So
which
that
was
is
an
the reason why I
opportunity
can
for us to discuss
tell you
this matter
openly
3
that
days
I
after the,
agree with
Russian
anti-capitalist
war in
sentiments.
Ukraine, and
Okay?
to express
Many
our support
transitional
for
socialist states have
President
made
Zelensky,
tremendous
to the
mistakes.
Ukrainian
It is
people,
important
but
to
also
learn
to
from
speak
those
and
mistakes.
share about
But
our
this should not
desire
mean that we
for a
should
lasting
stop
peace.
pursuing an
what we
evolution
have spoken
of the
about
way that our current political
very
economy, our
forcibly
current
over the
modes of
past few
production
weeks.
change for the
We
better so that
thought
every
that
single person, yourself included,
this
have a
war was
better
only going
life.
to be 22. We
Okay?
admire greatly
That's it.
the courage of
That is the
Ukrainian
reason why
people.
I'm
And,
like, I
Mr.
guess I'm
President, I wish
one-sided
to
if you
thank
want to
for
consider
this.
it that way. Okay? I don't know why you think this is a scary word.
That there
I don't know
are
why you think you can
responsibilities
just
on Europe's
simply,
side, and
I guess,
indeed,
not even address why these things are bad
we have invested
and
128
rely on
billion
red
in
scare
aid to
propaganda.
Ukraine and the
Okay?
Ukrainians.
Bad way to take in the news, to be
Ukraine
honest.
has
Also,
been
Queers for
able to
Palestine is a
hold the
bad
front of
movement
our
because it's a region and
collective
country that will
security
kill people who
fought
identify as
over
queer
these past few
just for
years
existing. These are all the points I hear during the 10 minutes before I can comment. I would write more, but there's a character limit, ...
No one
Okay.
in this room wants to live in
Allegiance
a world
to
where
people who
it's
are
the
undermined by colonial violence should not be transactional regardless, okay? Your assumption is that, you know, they're actually murdering queer people in Palestine on a daily basis. And it's true. Queer people are dying in Palestine on a daily basis. It's just that Israel is killing most of them, the overwhelming majority of them, okay? But regardless, even if a group of people that were being dominated by a settler colony and its ethno-nationalist project, and they were some of the most backwards thinking reactionary people you've ever seen, and there are plenty of examples of this, okay? I would still look at the greater evil in that scenario. I would still call out the larger colonial power dominating these people because, unlike you, I understand that reactionary sentiments such as that, homophobia, queerphobia in general, actually explodes when you are being dominated by a larger power. You have no time to do civil rights protests, okay? If you left people alone, or if you were, you know, living in the United States of America, for example, where there are still plenty of issues in terms of queer liberty, people have time to mobilize against their own governments and be able to advance social liberties, okay? What you are trying to do and failing to do so is an attempt at pink washing, to be like, it's actually really bad. Palestine is really bad. Queers for Palestine is really bad because they would kill gay people. You're fantasizing about gay people being murdered by Hamas at a time when gay people are being murdered by Israel. Yeah. Also, this has nothing to do with communism. I don't know why you're talking about communism here. Most of the Palestinian emancipatory movement, most of the resistance groups are not socialist communists at all. And they don't have to be. That's my point. You think I agree with like Hamas's domestic affairs? No, of course not. The fuck? But it doesn't matter. It is utterly irrelevant. They have no standing government at the moment. You want to know why? Because Israel blew it up, okay?
Peace must allow for Ukrainian sovereignty and allow Ukraine to negotiate with other stakeholders regarding the issues it affects. That affects it, rather. But it is also a country in which we need to shoulder our responsibilities so that we ensure security and stability for Ukraine and for the entire region. And for us Europeans, this is an existential issue. We also spoke about these issues at length with the president. We've worked with President Zelensky and gotten to some of the details of the various phases of the negotiation. And we've also been able to speak about some of this work with our...
What is this? Ranging from a low of, dude, no, don't do this. Don't go on ChatGPT to come back with a response. Like, come up with your own responses. You know what I mean? Like, this is, what is this? Did you copy paste this from Wikipedia or did you get this from ChatGPT? Ranging from a low of 10 to 20 million as high to 148 million. Political science Rudolf Rummel and historian Mark Bradley have written that while the exact numbers have been in dispute, the order of magnitude is not. The amount of death due to communism, both are bad. You're just choosing a side and ignoring its negatives. Did you just come in here and hit me with the victims of communism numbers? First of all, your first indication right here should, your dead giveaway right here is this disparity. 10 to 20 million to 148 million. That didn't even ring any alarm bells for you at all? Like, not even a little bit. The funniest part about using numbers such as this one, and this person unfollowed after posting this, by the way, which is hilarious. The funniest part about using Black Book of Communism numbers, while also very clearly and deliberately, hold on, let's see how this person arrived at this information. I assume it's from Wikipedia. Yeah, he Googled mass killings under communist regimes and literally just this. According to historian Klaus Gohan Carlson, discussions of the number of victims of communist regimes have been extremely extensive and ideologically biased. Any attempt, I guess when you were copy and pasting this exact number, you didn't see the introduction, even on Wikipedia, that says that there is a tremendous amount of ideological bias. Any attempt to estimate a total number of killings under communist regimes depends greatly on definitions, ranging from a low 10 to 20 million as high as 148 million. How do you clip chimp a Wikipedia article, by the way? This is crazy. Political scientist Rudolf Rimmel and historian Mark Bradley have written that while the exact numbers have been in dispute, the order of magnitude is not. If you were to utilize the standards of Black Book of Communism in terms of victims, which include not only the Nazis that the USSR killed during World War II, but also the potential children that those Nazis could have had, okay, after World War II, that's how you arrive at the 100 million number. You understand? Do you feel like this is an appropriate way to do it? Even if you were to attribute famine, for example, directly to the regimes and directly to the political ideology that dictated the regimes, then capitalism kills 14 million, or, well, 8 to 14 million people every year due to famine, okay? Now, in that circumstance, you'd be comparing famine to a region that simply always had famine and no abundance whatsoever versus famine under capitalism now that still exists at a time when there is abundance. This comparison is ridiculous. Regardless. Oh, I can't believe I just argued against someone who literally copied and pasted a Wikipedia page. You know, that's crazy. They're getting dumber. Instead of getting smarter, they're getting dumber. How is this happening?
On both sides of the Atlantic, we have a shared agenda in that regard. We also spoke about the Middle East, among other subjects, and here again, we have the same desire. We don't want to see Iran obtain nuclear weapons. We don't want, or rather, we want an approach with partners in the region that we can trust. Given Iran's nuclear activities, we want to limit its ballistic capabilities and avoid any type of regional destabilization. With respect to Syria and Iraq, we also share the same desire. We don't want to see Islamic terrorist groups resume any of their activities because for some time our armies have very bravely been engaged in the Gulf, as you have led, and contributions have been significant and helped stability in the region. And I say this with great sincerity. France was affected by a terrorist attack in 2015, which was linked to the terrorist activity in Syria. And we are in that region at your side to work for more security. Ladies and gentlemen, we had extremely productive discussions this morning during the conference, and we spoke with our ministers and counselors and advisors. And I wish to say, after speaking with President Trump, I fully believe that there is a path forward. We share the same beliefs. We know what work needs to be done, and in the weeks to come, we will work on that. Our teams will come together in various formats to make sure that we have this solid, lasting peace with great strength. Mr. President, thank you so much for welcoming me here today. Thank you so much for these productive discussions and for your commitment. Thank you, dear Donald.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Brian, would you like to ask a question? Go ahead.
Mr. President, welcome, President Trump. I just want to touch upon real quickly the Harvard poll that came out that had, thank you very much, the Harvard poll that came out had you up 9+ points, and all of your agenda that you ran on, you're accomplishing that. You got the support of the American people, including stopping the war in Ukraine. If you can comment on the latest Harvard poll, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I was honored by it. It was a big poll, and it's usually a poll that leans on the other side of things, the other side of the world, so to speak. But the Harvard poll is a respected poll, and it has us not only leading, but leading by a lot, and leading on every single issue that we've talked about. And as I said, we've become the party of common sense, and I think that's a very important element now, common sense, because what's happening in the world and even in this country, some of the things that took place, many of them are now canceled, and the rest are being canceled as we speak. But we've moved very rapidly and I think very effectively. So I was honored by that poll. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There are no
ahead,
questions.
please, go
No.
ahead.
This man saw the Modi press conferences when Modi was in America and was like, that's what I want. I want that real bad.
Go ahead.
The questions are now, Mr. President, they're saying you got a thick 8, like literally. He's like, thank you for that question. I love having a thick 8. It's the thickest of 8s.
Yeah, I think the meeting in Saudi Arabia was a fantastic one. We met with the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic young guy. He's young.
Yeah,
with
Mr.
great
President, your bitch is
imagination
too
and,
bad. They're saying it's the baddest
tremendously
bitch.
respected all over the world.
What do you have
And
to say, sir?
he goes right to the king, and the king is incredible. Gotten to be friends with both of them very much, and they want to see this ended, and they're going all out to make
How
sure
is
that
this
it
literally
ended.
any different than the DPRK news Americans love to laugh at? Excuse me. The difference is the DPRK is restoring the glorious revolutionary principles. Okay, that's the difference. The drip. The DPRK drip is better. But yes, yes, it is literally the same. Yes, it is straightforwardly the same. But worse. The American side of this is worse, and I'll tell you exactly why. At least back in the day, there was this notion that there was adversarial journalism, and in certain instances, there truly was adversarial journalism, which meant that people could arrive at the truth a little bit, and that created this notion that the press is independent and free. It knows the press is not independent and free. That's the major difference. Donald Trump, looking at authoritarian strongmen and basically taking on some of their worst aspects and bringing it directly to the United States of America in this very stupid way, is quite literally creating this incredibly unstable environment where people still have the old notion that the media is independent and free, but they're doing dear leader praise. Do you understand? People still have this mentality in the back of their minds that the press is free and independent, and it's not like state media that praises dear leader when it is actually fully becoming that way. And I know this from my own personal experience in Turkey. This is exactly what happened in Turkey. Turkey still has technically free press. It's a laughable notion. It's not free at all. Turkey doesn't have free speech or free press enshrined in its constitution, but it looks independent, but it's not independent. It's bought out by all of Erdogan's cronies. So they almost entirely run pro-Erdogan propaganda. Okay? So that's the direction that America is heading towards right now.
What makes you think you can trust Putin in those negotiations?
Look, I
Hassan, you are sort of controversial in the communism debate. Communism can't promise to make lives better. It did it in the past. It may decrease income inequality, but it doesn't mean it's going to provide high standards while providing more equal lives. You may suggest change in mode of production, better for individuals versus private ownership. But don't you think it's impossible after this point? Yeah, let me just sidestep away and have a long, convoluted conversation about like how we could implement full luxury automated communism. Come on, chatter.
I mean, we had nothing to get from
Maybe
him
on a
at the
different
time.
day. Maybe
Now
a different day.
There is a big change because there is a new U.S. administration. So this is a new context.
Turkey
So
didn't
there is
collapse,
good
so
reason
then could
for
we just
President,
become
Trump
Turkey, a
to
forever
re-engage
dictatorship?
with President Putin. But my experience is the following, and I shared it with President Trump and the team. In 2014, our predecessors negotiated peace with President Putin. But because of the lack of guarantees, and especially security guarantees, President Putin violated this peace. And I had several discussions, especially beginning of 2022.
He's speaking in English so he
several
can
times,
understand.
7 hours with President Putin. 15 days before the launching of the attack. He denied everything. But we didn't have security guarantees. So this is why being strong and having deterrence capacities is the only way to be sure it will be respected. And I insisted on that, and this is why I believe that the US has the capacity to do so. And this is why I think we should never say, I will never send any boots on the ground because you give a blank check to violate any type of commitment. So I think it's good to have discussion. I think it's useful to have negotiation. I think it's super important to go to the peace. But my strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which is which can be assessed, checked and verified. And let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees on the short run. And this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees. And this is our collective deterrence capacity. And I have the feeling that the President has this capacity.
I think it's very much to the benefit of Russia to make a deal. And I feel that we'll do that. It is what it is. Again, it's a war that should have never been started. It's a war that would not have been started if I were president. But it did start, and it's at a terrible level where cities are burned down and shot down to the ground. It looks like demolition sites, a whole big pile of demolition sites, and we got to get it stopped. Too many people, too much agony. The whole culture is destroyed when you rip down some of those ancient, really ancient or near ancient buildings. It's so sad to see, but I think it's very much to the benefit of this tremendous distrust on both sides. That's why it's good that I'm coming in now. But I think it's
tell Macron Ukraine is flat, and the only thing that can stop a bullet is a person's body.
And to go on with
the beautiful domes.
Go on with leading Russia in a very positive way. That's what you have to do. But I really believe that he wants to make a deal. Maybe wrong, but I believe he wants to make a deal. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, next week there's a key deadline for your Canada and Mexico tariffs. Believe those countries have done enough on the border to stop those from taking effect. And for President Macron, I'm wondering if you believe that this critical minerals deal with Ukraine represents a de facto.
Bro, Bloomberg, Russian officials are reportedly. Wait, no, there's no way this is correct, right? Did Bloomberg actually report this? Hold on. Wait. Russian officials are reportedly wary of President Trump's strategy, not understanding it. They remain cautious about Trump's seeming embrace of Putin. What? This is like when Nick Fuentes was like, yeah, I think you guys got to dial back on the Sig Heiling a little bit for me. Okay? Then, like, what? No. What is happening? What is going on? I mean, I'm confused by it too, because he's going above and beyond. Like, he is going above and beyond. It's not normal. The level of glaze. No. The account itself is not verifiable, but the account itself is basically taking stuff from, you know, news. Phytux is decently reliable. That's not the original account though. This is the Phytux network, but they're not coming up with their own news. They're just, look, this is what they're, it is from the Bloomberg article. Officials in Moscow are cautious about Trump's embrace of Putin. Two people with knowledge of the situation said the Russian leadership doesn't fully understand the White House strategy and is wary of traps, another person close to the Kremlin said. So he's not, the article is real. It is from Bloomberg.
Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again. Plus, we're doing other things, as you know. We're finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse at levels that nobody thought possible. You're seeing what's going on. And that was also part of the Harvard poll. Do you agree with what President Trump is doing with Elon and others that are looking for the waste, fraud, and abuse? And the numbers were staggering. It was like 70% to 2%. Everybody wants to find out. They don't like it. And, you know, the radical left or whoever it may be starts screaming about the Constitution, but it has nothing to do with the Constitution. It has to do with fairness to this country. It has to do with being ripped off. And when you read the things that all of these billions, and I mean many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent on, that's all you have to do is stand up here and read them. I could stand up all day and read the kind of things where we're spending all of this money. The good news is that when you think of how rich a nation we can be when we get rid of this, you know, sometimes you'll buy a company and you'll see it was really well run. It's
I think one of the wildest things that has happened, and I will openly and readily admit this. One of the wildest things that has happened so far, I think, is this is the Vivek Ramaswamy plan. Okay? Or at least like something that Vivek Ramaswamy was repeating that he got from fucking 4chan or whatever about how the real meta here should be to realign with Russia because they are also defending Christianity and they're white and they're based, and then utilize that allegiance with Russia to undermine China. The real war is China. And at the time I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this, one, I don't think will work. Okay. I don't think that this will be a successful way of undermining. Like, they're basically doing the reverse. They're basically doing the opposite of what they did in the Cold War, where they had better relationships with China because they thought that this would undermine the USSR. So I think that that's what they're trying to do with Russia now, except the difference is, says the Brown, bro, amazing. Just, I get a lot of shit, okay, but that's awesome. I love when someone is just like, I'm gonna go straight to the point. You are brown, says the Brown.
I was impressed by the way you referred to Notre Dame, and that you were impressed by the reconstruction of Notre Dame. A lot of Americans have sent money to Paris to
undermines Europe,
the reconstruction of Notre Dame. As a president of the United States, are you going to
not talking about you?
Reconstruction of
I don't know
Ukraine?
who you're talking about.
Et Monsieur le Président Macron?
President Macron, what is the main area of progress in your meeting with President Trump? Can you confirm that there is an agreement to send European peacekeeping troops? Will France participate in that? How many troops? What would they be doing? Would this represent a great danger to send French and European troops to Ukraine?
Well, I guess it's a little strange question because you ask whether or not we're going to, on behalf of the United States, contribute to Ukraine. I mean, we're in there for about $350 billion. I think that's a pretty big contribution. I do appreciate the first part of your question, however, because I think they've done an incredible job with the Cathedral of Notre Dame. I think the president has done. I know he headed it up.
Okay, I don't care about Notre Dame. Jeffrey Sachs has the same view that supporting Ukraine for this long was a mistake and the military-industrial complex is desperate to make peace with Russia in order to focus on China. I don't think it's a 4chan meme. Yeah, the problem here is that the allegiance that Russia and China have are directly built on the boundaries of them both resisting American empire and Western supremacy. So I don't know, like, they're not aligned with one another ideologically. Russia, I mean, and China doesn't really care about ideological boundaries at all. But also Russia is a right-wing kleptocracy. So I don't even know if that's a successful strategy is what I mean. I don't believe Putin will go for it, but whoever comes after Putin is likely to take the US's offer to align against China. There are lots of pro-West people in the Russian ruling class. Yeah, well, yes, I'm going to have German socialist streamer Dick Carl Dent in a little bit, in half an hour, once we're done with this part of the segment. Once we're done with the France talks, I'm going to talk to D. Carl Dent and talk to him about the German elections, okay?
To have a truce, a peace, and be able to measure that, and then structure our discussions on that basis. France and several other European countries, along with Ukraine, are hard at work to build this lasting peace with very specific points, including security guarantees, the territories that belong to Ukraine, the issue of reconstruction, the economy, and critical minerals. We've been able to go into the details of those proposals. The third area of progress, which really mark a turning point, is the fact that we were able to talk about the details of the security guarantees. And the president has shown this over the past few days, and he said so a moment ago. We want peace. He wants peace. We want peace swiftly, but we don't want an agreement that is weak. The fact that there are Europeans that are ready to engage to provide for these security
Putin says that U.S. and Russian companies are currently discussing joint projects. Yeah, when he says we're going to take over the minerals, here's the other side of the story. When he says we're going to take over the minerals, I'm not I'm not super well versed on the Ukrainian mineral maps. Okay, I'm not Pete Buttigieg, who was very well versed on Afghan mineral maps. Okay, I am not the Pete Buttigieg of Ukraine. But from what I understand, a lot of the natural, a lot of the minerals that they're talking about is in territories that are either near or directly in areas that Russia has forcibly annexed and captured. So when he says like we're going to extract these minerals, we're going to take over those minerals, like I don't know what he means by that. Is he basically claiming that like they're going to do a joint cooperative extraction agreement, a joint cooperative extraction agreement with Russia? Is that what he means? I don't really get it. I don't really understand what he's saying.
Report to show that we have a negotiated peace signed by both sides, and that is a peace we will preserve.
No, it's all on the Ukrainian side of the river, but their existence is basically entirely theoretical.
Not for combat. These would be
deployments. Well, that's why I said like near territory that Russia has annexed. You can't extract minerals in that area. If there are a shit ton of minerals there, I don't think you can extract minerals safely without like Russia's go-ahead if it's in striking distance. That's why I said it's either around the areas that Russia has forcibly annexed and occupied or directly in the areas that Russia has forcibly annexed and occupied, which means that if these hypothetical minerals that are worth trillions exist on Ukrainian soil, which again, I don't know, okay? Why Dick Carl Dent and not Stay? I don't know any of these names, chatters. I don't know why you think I'm like picking and choosing favorites in German politics. I just don't know. I'd be down to have that other guy on too.
Part of the burden, their share of strong alliance that we've built over the decades. We have our solidarity and we have deterrence capacities. What does it mean? Would it be dangerous? If there is an agreement signed by Ukraine and Russia, thanks to the efforts of President Trump, and if we provide the guarantees and Russia violates the agreement, then it would be in conflict with everyone who is engaged in the peace process. And that is a change. That was something we did not see in the past. That's not what we saw in 2014. So that is the real change that we're marking. We have this deterrence capacity on the American side. We have the capacity for engagement on the European side, and that's something we're going to continue working on together. It's not dangerous, but it's credible. It's less dangerous than things that could happen in the long term. And I think this is what we need to do to ensure security. And I say this very clearly. We're also talking about security for Europeans. I've been saying this for weeks now. If we do not guarantee the security of this territory within Europe, then how can we guarantee our own security for one and all? We live just 1,500 kilometers from Ukraine, and the Germans and Polish are even closer. So our collective security is important. We need to answer this call for Europeans to be more engaged, and Americans will be there still in solidarity. Europeans are working for their collective security, but I really think this was a turning point today in our discussions.
Emmanuel, thank you very much. Great job, and it's been wonderful being with you. Say hello to your beautiful wife, and we will see you again soon. We'll be speaking often. We'll get this thing worked out. We're going to get it done.
I guess he's not going with Candace Owens' method at all.
Yeah.
Claiming that Macron's beautiful wife is actually a man. That's the Candace Owens strategy.